When you're finding sine, cosine, and tangent of angles on the unit circle, it's important that you know their coordinates. And then from there, if you're finding the sine, it's always going to be the y value, cosine will always be the x value, and then tangent will always be y over x. For example, if you're finding sine of 2 pi over 3, first thing I'd always do is write the first quadrant of coordinates, even just their numerators, so you don't have to go through and write the whole unit circle. But if we're doing 2 pi over 3, that's here, 2/3 of a semicircle. That goes with the one closer to the y-axis in the first quadrant. And we know that that angle is 1/2 radical 3 over 2, which means this one is going to be that same one, but we went left and up, so negative 1/2 positive radical 3 over 2. And because sine is y, radical 3 over 2 is going to be your answer. For cosine of 7 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6 is pi, which means 7 pi over 6 is a sixth of a semicircle more than pi. And that one is the angle closer to the x-axis, so in the first quadrant, it corresponds with the angle closer to the x-axis. That coordinate is radical 3 over 2, 1/2, which means this coordinate is going to be negative radical 3 over 2, negative 1/2, because we're in the third quadrant. And it's cosine, so we need the x value, so negative radical 3 over 2 would be our answer for that one. Next, tangent. Tangent is harder. It's usually more steps of simplifying. Pi over 6, that's 1/6 of a semicircle. That's radical 3 over 2, 1/2. And remember, tangent is y over x, so that's 1/2 over radical 3 over 2. You can multiply by 2 to the top and bottom to get your 2's to cancel, and you're left with 1 over radical 3, but you don't want to be left in a square root in the denominator. So we're going to multiply by radical 3 to the top and bottom to rationalize that to get that out, and that's radical 3 over 3 will be your answer for that one. Tangent of 3 pi over 2, that's 3/2 of a semicircle, so that's going to be here. We went left and right 0 and down 1 to get there, so that's going to be 0, negative 1. Tangent is y over x, negative 1 over 0. We can't have 0 in the denominator, so that answer would be undefined. Finally, tangent is 7 pi over 4. 8 pi over 4 is the same as 2 pi, so 8 pi over 4 will be all the way around, which means 7 pi over 4 is 1/4 of a semicircle less than that. And that goes with this angle in the middle, which is radical 2 over 2, radical 2 over 2. This one will be radical 2 over 2, but then we went down, negative radical 2 over 2. We do y divided by x. And we could multiply by 2, rationalize like we did in the last one, but I see that this number and this number are the same. So just like if you have 3 over 3, the 3's cancel and you're left with 1. Same thing, we have the same number over the same number. Those cancel and we get 1, but there was that negative in front, so we need a negative 1.